3 minutes, but I would like to just add one thing in rebuttal to what the chairman presented. In providing the parameters, just very recently, and we had been notified as a state employee, that probably over 2 months ago, the state was working on it and on a new policy, which is 20%. So there is a policy already in place. Okay, so now I'm going to read. I'm not ignoring you. My testimony's over here. Please know that this decision to testify this morning was not made lightly, as I have reservations for I fear it could result in consequences. I suspect the purpose behind this bill is accountability, which is admirable, but this attempt falls short and will come with a price tag. It is true, there are state employees who take advantage of the remote work. This isn't exclusive to state employees, though. Unproductive workers are a prevalent issue in many industries. But unproductive employees are unproductive regardless of their work environment. I have witnessed it firsthand, not only with remote work, but also in the office. And frankly, it was worse in the office prior to COVID, and the worst offenders are often the leadership that will be relied upon to enforce this policy. Most of the positions are like mine, as they are project oriented, in that it is a start to finish race. There is not extra work. Some who perform well can complete their race within 6 hours. Others will take 9. Once you finish your own race, helping another racer isn't viable. I am a standalone person in my role. There's just that level of uniqueness where I am. I rarely work with any coworkers, and those I may need to work with are outside of the bureau. My interactions with external customers are done largely by email with calls as needed. To date, I've never had more than 5 calls in one day. Approximately 75 to 80% of my day requires a tremendous amount of concentration. Being in a building that is filled with 8x6 cubes, with many on virtual meetings, is not conducive environment for concentration. And I suspect my productivity will decrease, and due to my work being deadline driven, comp time will be accrued. There are additional financial impacts to be considered. Sorry?
Can you wrap up, please?
I have less than 100 words left.
Okay, I'll give you 100 words.
Okay. The additional financial impact will be incurred with furniture purchases, equipment, supplies, and wages. Filling vacancies that will be due to this policy will be difficult. Remote work is still very prevalent among the private sector, and as you know, the state pays at a decreased. It's below the private sector. So you're going to see the state beginning to ask for increased wages, which will go beyond new employees because they do it across the board. In closing, I'd like to share how it will impact me personally. Despite receiving the second highest ranking on every annual eval, I've been subject to 6 unethical decisions or actions that have each had a negative financial impact on me. The implementation of this policy will be the 7th. It will cost me approximately $40 a week in gas. A commuter van is not available. I have looked into it. And my 8-hour workday will be a minimum of 11 hours away from home. This will result in me having to sacrifice family, community, and the civic involvement, which I have immersed myself in.
Ms. Czar, we need to wrap it up.
I do not have children nor dependents or adult dependents at home, but when you work from a location which is only 5-minute drive from your community and civic volunteerism, it's amazing what you accomplish as opposed to the 45 to 55-minute commute that I have to deal with when I go in. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for testifying this morning, Ms. Czar. Any questions from the committee to Ms. Czar? Seeing none, thank you. No questions. Have a good morning. Have a good day, Ms. Czar. Thank you for testifying. We do have one more that just popped up, and Ms. Weber, she's in person. Is Ms. Weber here? Sheila Weber? In person? No Sheila Weber? Okay. Okay. Oh. Ms. Weber, are you going to testify virtually? Are you muted? It says in person. Ms. Weaver? Okay. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay. Looks like we have a written testimony from Ms. Weaver. We'll include those. We'll include Ms. Weaver's testimony in the minutes. Thank you. Looks like we don't have anyone else to testify that's signed up. Does anyone in the audience like to take a couple seconds and come up and testify? Seeing none. Any more discussion amongst the committee? Mr. Guthrie, if you want to, Senator Guthrie, you want to come up and conclude?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. I want to speak to Ms. Czar's fear of consequences. I certainly hope that's not the case, because I admire and appreciate when an employee comes and testifies what they believe is good or bad about a bill. So I would hate to think that there would be some kind of retaliation for that. And I appreciate her courage in testifying with her having that fear. We've seen already, and in fact, Ms. Czar indicated that she had trouble with the connection. I mean, here again, it isn't as good as face-to-face. And it doesn't mean there's not an application for it. And there's certainly some percentage there that can make sense to do that. And we've tried to provide for that. She talked about the policy that HR came out with, and we actually talked with HR over the interim three times, and they elected to do that. The thing about a policy, it can be changed next week or next year. And the part of the reason for the reporting is, let's take a snapshot of how that looked in the previous year and get the feedback. And maybe, like we do every year with a lot of different policies, maybe there's some adjustment that needs to be made in subsequent years. So that's in part a reason for the report. You will notice, and again, it was advanced by COVID and some other things, that industries and companies all over the United States, you hear stories about trying to get employees back to work, because I think the general consensus is that we can be more productive.
This is
and again, that's not always the case, and that's why there's some room for some telework. And with that, again, I would ask your favorable consideration in sending Senate Bill 1261 to the floor with a recommendation that it do pass. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Guthrie. Committee, we have Senate Bill 1261 in front of us. What's your flavor? Senator Harris.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to send Senate Bill 1260 to the Senate floor with a due pass recommendation. Or no, it's 1261, sorry.
Committee, we have a motion by Senator Harris and a second by Senator Lee. Any discussion on the motion? No, Senator Taves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the work that Senator Guthrie did to strike a balance on this. I think it's an ongoing debate in our communities whether or not and to what degree telework is actually productive and how productive it is. I'm not convinced that we have that figured out. I think that in some situations, like was testified upon, concentration can be fantastic. The way that you can have concentration in that kind of environment is very helpful. But I think that he struck a good balance, and I think he listened to the right people. I had someone come to me that was very concerned about it, and I think that the concerns have been addressed. So I appreciate his work on this bill, and I'll support it.
Thank you, Senator Taves. Senator Winthrop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I said previously, I think Senator Guthrie is one of the most integrous senators we have, and is always trying to strike that balance and really be helpful to the constituents of Idaho, and is not guided by ego, but how to help more people. So I just want to say that I really appreciate that. The thing that is kind of nagging at me is what's so hard is that about that question I had about exceptions. And I know in today's workforce, and we went to that chamber presentation with the lack of child care and adult care, sometimes that supervising having that ability to say, I'm going to let you work from home, would be helpful, and I think it incentivizes work. I also think about when I was a supervisor all those years, I had very introverted employees and very extroverted. And sometimes I would have liked to put the extroverted employees into their homes so they would get work done because they were managing by walking around. So I'm struggling because I do think you've done such a good job on this bill.
You bet.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I have a lot of state employees in my district and who have vocalized their concerns. So I may hesitate reluctantly to vote against, but I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your hard work on this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Senator Wintrow. Any
Yeah,
other
he's
discussion
been
on
there
the
21
motion?
years, hasn't he, Ms. Winfrey?
Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this will
No term
prompt
limits.
discussion. I think it will prompt probably some interaction within the various agencies and departments.
You've been there, what, 16
So we
years?
may look at some changes in the future, but I think this is a good first step.
After the
And,
repeal of the
thank the good Senator
8-year
Guthrie
term
for
limit
bringing
in
it forward.
2002.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Winder. Any further discussion? Seeing done, committee, we do have a motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against, say no. Motion passed. Would you like to be recorded? Okay. Thank you. Motion passes. Anything else that needs to come before the committee? Seeing none, looks like